next conversation poses yet another very important question, that of a sense of belonging. What is it, and has it changed in the virtual world many of us are living in, at least on the professional side, hopefully? Here to talk about it, please welcome Eva Rychlik, Marketing Director at PepsiCo, and Barbara Wawrzynek, Communication Lead at PepsiCo. Hello.
Hello and welcome.
We have a little bit of delay, which is something that we need to live with these days, but that's hopefully normal. We'll give you a little extra time to think about my questions, or pretend you haven't heard them yet, maybe. You never know. Eva, Barbara, it turns out that your beautiful brand new office in Kraków was ready, well, for the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Not an easy job to build a sense of belonging when just about the only tools you have at the other end of the spectrum is a laptop, a smartphone, and maybe a tablet. What can you say about it?
Basia, maybe from your perspective, from the organizational point of view, and then I will add on from the team point of view.
Sure. Yeah, let's go with that flow. I think it's fair to provide some context first before we get into some details. So let me start with just mentioning that approximately 85% of our employees were recruited remotely and onboarded remotely, which is, I think, a true experiment on many different levels. And like you say, this has been quite of a challenge, again, quite of an experiment, but an amazing learning curve, I think, for us as an organization. So I look at this change on many different levels. I look at this shift on many different levels. And hopefully we will have a great conversation on that shortly. But what I observed in this unique time is that how much more exposed actually we became as organization, as employees, or as human beings. And Eva will touch on that just in a second. But from the organizational point of view, I think we became exposed in terms of, the culture strength, the portfolio of resources that we have to best support our employees, in terms of the leadership culture or leadership strength that we built to make sure that in that challenging time we provide best support, and that what is more important, that we are present to employees. So in a way, we as organization, we became a long distance partner to our employees, which brings yeah.
Barbara, a long distance partner doesn't necessarily sound too good for us, does it? Tell me.
It
depends. A different
depends.
yardstick. It does depend.
It depends.
It always depends in life, professionally, and in real life. Tell me, did you
if I may tap into what Barbara said, I think what became a natural for us, and the lantern on our way as a new employee on the Kraków labor market, was to create an employee experience that will that will help people thinking that they want to stay longer with us. And I think this was super important from the very beginning, and not only from the organizational point of view as a whole, but also on a very much individual human being basis. So very much based on values. And if I'm not very much mistaken, and I hope I'm not, values remain the same. Either this is a virtual or a physical environment. And I think this is the core of our, or the heart, let me say like that, of our actions. And with the fact that majority of our teams, our colleagues in Kraków, majority of us joined the company already with format, it made it, I think, a little bit more natural, but the same demanding for the leadership group, I would say. But I think we're going to touch on this a little bit later on when we deep dive the tools.
Eva,
yes, but
Barbara, can I ask you?
Sorry, I just need to add something, because definitely it's not my point or our point to demonize this dynamics. It's just what it is, and I think it would be unfair to say that it's either wrong or good. It is just what it is. But where I was going with this statement is that a lot of things change in the environment. However, the needs and wants remain the same, as well as values. So it's just a matter of what you do and how you express your actions and behaviors in order to stay connected and really encourage the sense of belonging. So nothing bad, just different. Again, it is what it is.
A very interesting aspect to this conversation, Eva, Barbara, is that it feels like you're using the delay in the sound in this conversation strategically, not to allow me to ask questions. How smart!
We're gonna make this interview with you in a second.
Yes, exactly. It was our hidden plan. So, but don't worry, you make it. You make it. It's gonna be all okay.
That's really kind of you. A sense of belonging in a remote work environment. How is it not a contradiction in terms? Can you prove your point a little further, a little more?
Basia, I think that it's time to use the metaphor that you used when we were trying to think and brainstorm ourselves. What is the message that we want to share within this short meeting? Let me call it like that. Do we want to use this now?
Let's go with it. Yes, go Eva.
Yes, I guess Basia mentioned that to her it's like almost like making sure the long distance relationship is kept and maintained. So we realized, and it also helped us to realize many things that we did that are very much intentional. So the virtual environment as such helped us to intentionally take care of our working environment, focusing on most relevant topics and values that we wanted to gather people around. And we also asked ourselves a question: what actually a sense of belonging is? And actually, to me personally, it's the feeling of it's my personal feeling if somebody cares about me being in or being out. Doesn't make a change if I'm participating in the meeting, or it doesn't make any change to anybody or any difference if I'm not. And we said that actually sense of belonging it is still all around being taken care of and being cared about, I would say. Correct, Basia?
Yeah, I fully agree. And you are provoking us on purpose, which is great. So responding to this provocation, let me just say that we manage with virtual environments, yet the quality of relationships remain or can remain real. So on the level of values, again, needs and wants, it's all real. We haven't changed into different or very much different human beings.
Barbara, Eva, it's all very clear. What you're saying is that the values themselves haven't changed. It has become a bit of a long-distance relationship, which is a good metaphor to describe it, to explain it. But at the same time, it's probably also fair to say that even in the old days, in the pre-pandemic days, it wasn't always easy to create and strengthen and build the sense of belonging in an organization. So it's perhaps natural to assume that it hasn't become easier. It has become more difficult, has it not?
I agree. And we also had this discussion with Eva when we were brainstorming.
That takes me. Okay,
go ahead.
Please finish.
Maybe just conclude shortly. I think the major difference, and something that doesn't really help or puts us in a different situation, is the fact that all the triggers that we had in the environment, physical, emotional, social, they either disappeared or they were greatly reduced. So I think the key change is that we as an employee, we as a colleague, we as an organization, we became the key trigger. So I think as a consequence, there's much more responsibility on us to create, to shape, to contribute, and not everyone deals with it really well. So that's a challenge for sure.
So is it
Although
fair
it's
to
also
say?
just to add to what Barbara
Yeah,
said.
please.
Thank you. So at the same time, you have a pretty talkative group here. Yes, challenging, but at the same time, it's a space for growth, right? So we from the beginning we tried to be agile and try to learn and observe and test different scenarios for our people to stay connected. So I would say precisely staying connected, purposeful around specific topics within specific format that sometimes work for us better, sometimes a little bit worse. It's an important element of this learning process, and we are still within the process, but we already have great lessons to share, and we already know at what dimension and level of the, for example, meetings and interactions with our teams, with our colleagues in the company, what works well and what doesn't work so well. So very much it is about being connected, creating purposeful meetings, but also be able to capture those moments and that are teaching us something. So improve with time, I would say.
We have less than 8 minutes, believe it or not, to the end of this conversation.
Impossible.
So
We will prolong.
I agree. Now, so the big question I want to ask you now, to go from the more abstract level to a more tangible sense, to something that people can relate to in their personal life. Is it fair to say that in the past, we took our own sense of belonging a little bit for granted, in the sense we just went to work, we met people there, there were different kinds of interactions, and we didn't really think that much about what it means to us on a personal level. Whereas when we became isolated, something we didn't like or plan, this became very personal, that we actually want to belong. Is that a fair thing to say?
It is, and very much well said. In the past, when we had a meeting, we were all locked in the room, and nobody was like. There were not so many distractors as we have nowadays, staying at home mainly, and being distracted by 10,000 different things. Many times, family, kids, pets. I have my cat, Basia can confirm that, all the time entering my room, or my son wants something, or my husband, somebody rings at the door. So again, I would say that the purpose of each meeting, each and every interaction is super important, but because this catches the attention and helps people to make a very conscientious decision of being engaged of particular meeting. I think it's super important. Barbara, would you agree?
Definitely, I would agree. And to your point, you said that, or you said that earlier in the days we used to come to work without, thinking, what you're bringing and how you're really expressing. This has changed simply because I believe we became more aware of, what you bring and how you're bringing that, to your either small or bigger community. So in that sense, I think this situation exposed us. And, the
Exposure is
risk
a big
is,
word.
exposure is a big word, but I use it intentionally because I think, and that's what I think we've been observing, is that in this sort of more extreme environment, there's a risk of landing on the edges, so you can be either, giving too much or taking too much. So you need to be careful. I think that could be a good practice and a watch out for the audience.
So Possibly
our
it's
perspective.
just the right time for the toughest question or questions I will hopefully ask you today. And that one would be about how should one work on the sense of belonging and what makes people actually belong as opposed to wishful thinking belong.
Mhm. Uh, Let me share my opinion. And by the way, I had a perfect example of being in virtual environment from home, because my son just started to knock on my door and, "Mom, can I have something to eat?" And I had to excuse you, being very much focused and consciously making the decision of spending this time with you, which I'm very thankful for. Yes, what to do? First of all, taking full responsibility of each and every interaction, being curious that the other person needs from this interaction. So, and also what's in it for me, from the broader perspective than this particular one particular topic that we are discussing only. It's better always to take the broader perspective and observe how this works. One more thing that I would add: it's also about shared responsibility. So what I love about our meeting today and our interaction today is that three of us, we all take the responsibility of how potentially important it's going to be for our lovely audience of the conference. We do not leave it to the other two, right? And I think this is what very much matters. So also teaching our organizations that time matters, and the way in which we're gonna spend this time very much belongs on or depends on all of us. We all contributing to the ultimate
Absolutely.
outcome.
Absolutely true. But let me paraphrase this question a little. Imagine there is another organization like PepsiCo just starting. You had to learn your lessons the hard way to understand in depth what belonging means in your particular organization. If you were to advise a new player on the market, so to say, as someone who is yet to face those issues, what would be the top priorities for them to build sense of belonging?
From me, always be interested in the needs of your audience, of the people that you're welcoming into the organization, both very much personal level and the group level.
Yeah, and I would add potentially as a good practice, because I think it's also fair to say that what works for us may not work for all. It's not one size fits all solution. I think that's also a good practice to consider. So recognizing the diversity of needs, therefore maybe diversifying your strategies based on that. But to Eva's point, I think what I would be careful as a good practice from the organizational point of view is to find a right balance. As we think about culture creation, in fact, is to find the right balance between, entertaining people, because we are looking for, spontaneity and excitement and fun at work. A good example would be, I don't know, Zoom party as a type of the entertainment. So balance this with investing, like real investment in stuff, which means training your people, individual and groups, how to become better partners in building relationships, so training sessions, coachings, mentoring, showcasing good examples without, asking versus tell approach, and really investing in the right moments in the right time. So we are not amusement park, but we are also an investment company, because we empower people how to be better communicators, better connectors in that sense. So I think that could come as a good practice.
Barbara? Much as it saddens me, we have only 30 seconds left. So the last question I'm going to ask you and request a quick answer to would be, you have surely surveyed how many people want to come back to office once everything looks better. If some of those people don't want to come back to office, or not that often at least, does it mean they have an issue with a sense of belonging, or does it mean that they think about it differently?
The second.
I agree.
From both of you?
And Yes, I agree. Coming back to the earlier stage of the conversation, it's a consequence of becoming more aware as a human being, as an employee, as a colleague, and I wouldn't read it as nothing negative. It's just really getting to know yourself better, really. But the next question is how we deal with it and how we manage this.
Barbara Wawrzynek, Communication Lead at PepsiCo, Eva Rychlik, Marketing Director at PepsiCo. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.